It's Friday, May 12th, and this is now on HNN. A clear frontrunner emerges in the University of Hawaii search for a new athletic director, what we know about him and the challenges he'll face.
The verdict is in for Vallow Daybell. I'm Danya Bacchus with the fate of the mother accused of killing her two youngest children.
A celebration of life is planned this weekend for the young Maui firefighter who died after being swept into a storm drain.
The Biden administration's new restrictions on asylum are in effect. I'm Nicole Skanga in Brownsville, Texas, where some 2,200 migrants crossed over the border in the past 24 hours.
Plus, ahead of Mother's Day, HNN celebrates the moms in our lives. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now. Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us right here on This Is Now. I'm Dylan Encheta alongside our Ashley Nagaoka. We've got a lot of breaking news happening, and we're going to start on Oahu's North Shore, where there is an apparent hostage situation unfolding. Now, police are responding to the area near the Dillingham Polo Field. This is some video we got into our newsroom just minutes ago. Sources told HNN that an armed suspect is holding a man hostage. We have also confirmed that shots have been fired. However, there were no immediate reports of injuries. Now, at last check, Farrington Highway has been shut down in both directions because of this ongoing police investigation. And as you can see from this video, there is some heavy police presence there. Our team is on the scene working to gather more information on this story.
Yeah, now to more breaking news. Hawaiian Airlines says it's anticipating flight delays today. That's because it's experiencing a temporary internet outage this morning, but has since been fixed. So the airline said it was caused by a power disruption through their internet provider, DR Fortress. The issue started at around 9 a.m. during scheduled maintenance. Officials added that flight safety has not been impacted and that the outage has since been resolved. So Hawaiian Air apologizes for the inconvenience and says it's working with affected guests. The airlines added this internet outage is unrelated to their recent passenger service system transition. Now, we're told that DR Fortress also provides service to some other big companies here in Hawaii. We have calls out to see what other services around the state are being affected. And now to our other big top story. Chris Angelos has been selected by the president of UH Manoa as the next athletic director, pending approval of the Board of Regents. Now, UH President David Lassner recommended him after a, quote, comprehensive national search.
Angelos is currently the Senior Deputy of Athletics at Long Island University in New York and previously held the Athletic Director role at Florida Atlantic University. The Board of Regents could approve the appointment as soon as next week, Thursday. If that happens, he would start work Monday, June 5th, taking over for current AD David Matlin, who is retiring. And joining us now with more on this is our Mark Carpenter. Mark, can you tell us a little bit more about Angelos and what the next steps are?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Dylan. Yeah, so as you mentioned, Angelos has a very extensive national resume, primarily based on the East Coast, currently working as an athletic director at Long Island University, but with prior experience at programs such as University of Miami, Indiana, South Florida, and his lengthy job in the top position of leading a department was at Florida Atlantic from 2003 to 2012.
Can you tell us, if he is approved by the Board of Regents, what are some of the challenges he'll face as the AD for University of Hawaii Athletics?
Well, you talk with analysts around the program, and they immediately say that this is a tough job. This is unlike any other job in the rest of the country. One of the biggest issues is Hawaii's geography, the fact that it's, so far away from the continental United States. So you have, of course, the inherent issues of always trying to attract recruits, trying to have big donors, trying to have fundraisers that are here, homegrown, people that want to contribute to the program. That's always been one of the hurdles in building a successful program. And right now, when you look at the current landscape of University of Hawaii Athletics, the largest issue is what is happening with the stadium, the football stadium. So you have the team right now playing its games at Chink Field. And in the meantime, you're just trying to see what is going to be unfolding with Aloha Stadium, the future development plan. And so that all ties in together, because if you don't have a viable stadium, an attractive stadium, if they even want to be playing at Aloha Stadium in the long term, how are you going to be getting recruits in the meantime? And so all of that is folded in together, really presents a hurdle for whoever is coming into this position, no matter what their prior background is. And something else that when you mention a candidate that is coming from the mainland is, how is this person going to connect with the local culture? I mean, it's something that also is unique to Hawaii, and just really understanding the intricacies of working with the community and really connecting with the community. And so this is a lengthy process. There is still some time to unfold with this, Dylan.
Yeah, and not to mention morale as well. I mean, we know about UH's glory days when they were national football champions, but that has kind of tapered off a little bit. Do you anticipate rallying up morale as another big challenge that he'll face?
Well, that was one of the things that happened, and that was kind of a developing crisis with the university, was morale. You saw the entire fiasco with what was happening with former head football coach Todd Graham. And credit to the university. They did a masterful job of turning morale around when they brought in Timmy Chang, homegrown hero. He comes in, he kind of revives the program, he brings back local pride in the program. So they've already had enormous steps in that way. And, you talk about football, but you also can't ignore the success of the basketball programs, of the volleyball programs. And so the program is really in a good place right now, morale-wise. But, when you bring in somebody to take over as athletics director, the big question is, how is this person going to lead the department going forward? How is this person going to grow the department, attract talent, and really make this a viable place long-term?
Our Mark Carpenter, thank you so much for your insight on the hunt for UH's next athletic director.
Thank you very much.
New at noon, the verdict is in. An Idaho jury has found Lori Vallow Daybell guilty on all counts of killing her 2 children and conspiring in the murder of her husband's first wife. This new video posted by East Idaho News was released from the Kauai Police Department and used in the trial. It shows Lori and her husband, Chad Daybell, hanging out by a pool back in January 2020 as she's being served court documents demanding she produce her 2 missing children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, to Idaho authorities within 5 days. Now, prosecutors argued that the couple conspired to remove the children from their lives as part of a doomsday-focused plot. Danya Backus has more.
Answer: guilty.
Idaho mother Lori Vallow Daybell appeared to show no emotion as a jury found her guilty of murdering her 2 youngest children and her new husband's late wife. She now faces a sentence of life in prison with no chance of parole. The jury took just hours to reach its verdict. During the 4-week trial, prosecutors say Lori Vallow Daybell and her 5th husband, Chad Daybell, killed her 2 children in 2019 so they could be unencumbered by obstacles and could have money, power, and sex. Investigators found the remains of 16-year-old Tylee Ryan and 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow a year later, buried on Chad Daybell's property. J.J. Vallow's grandfather is pleased with the verdict.
I want to personally thank and I want to personally hug every one of those jurors. What they went through, what they saw is mind-boggling.
Former friend Melanie Gibb testified that Vallow Daybell believed evil spirits had taken over people in her life, including her children, and turned them into zombies. Lori Vallow married Daybell in 2019, just 2 weeks after the death of Daybell's wife Tammy. After her body was exhumed, the Utah medical examiner determined she died at the hands of another of asphyxiation. The couple was charged with her murder.
Why, Lori? Why, Lori?
Vallow's lawyers described their client as a protective mother who fell under the romantic spell of a wannabe cult leader, Daybell. Vallow Daybell declined to testify. Her lawyers did not call any witnesses, saying they did not believe prosecutors had proven their case. Chad Daybell will be tried separately next summer. Danya Backus, CBS News.
Honolulu police arrested a man for an apparent kidnapping in Waipahu. Officers were called to the Waipahu Towers development on Pupumomi Street around 4 p.m. yesterday. According to authorities, the suspect broke into a 34-year-old woman's home and forcefully took a 3-month-old baby. A few hours later, the suspect was located at his Kaimuki home and arrested. He now faces multiple charges, including kidnapping and burglary. The child was found unharmed and returned to his mother. December. HPD said officers had served the suspect a TRO on behalf of the victim and the infant child earlier that morning. Police have not yet disclosed if there is any relation between the suspect and the victim. He remains in custody pending investigation. And over on Hawaii Island, county police say to be on the lookout for Shanice Ogata Stodinger, but don't approach her because she's considered to be armed and dangerous. The 28-year-old is suspected of repeatedly stabbing a 43-year-old man last week on Ohiki Street in Pahoa. Police say she may be driving a red Toyota Sequoia SUV. Call 808-935-3311 with any tips.
On Maui, Sunday will be Chelsea Evans' first Mother's Day since the tragic death of her oldest son. Firefighter Trey Evans Dumoran was sucked into a storm drain in late January while trying to help clear a blockage during a flash flood. He was just 24 years old. His family is planning to hold a celebration of life for Trey on Mother's Day this Sunday.
The reality is that what else would we do on Mother's Day? You know, it would be a lot of time of sitting around and missing him. I actually think it's really fitting. This is the closest that I feel like I can be to him.
Sunday's event is at the Hannibal Tavares Community Center from 10 to 4. There are also celebrations planned for the Big Island in June and on Molokai in July.
A Marine veteran accused of killing a homeless man who witnesses say was acting erratically on a New York subway is now charged with second-degree manslaughter. 24-year-old Daniel Perry appeared in a Manhattan courtroom on Friday. He was not required to enter a plea and was released on $100,000 bail. Penny is also required to surrender his passport and cannot leave the state of New York without a judge's approval. He's due back in court on July 17th. Penny's attorney says he risked his life for other passengers when he put Jordan Neely in a chokehold during that May 1st subway ride. Penny restrained Neely after witnesses say he began shouting that he was hungry, thirsty, and had little to live for. The medical examiner ruled the death a homicide, but that does not necessarily mean there was intent or culpability. Well, the end of the COVID-era immigration policy known as Title 42 did not result in a substantial increase in migrant encounters overnight. That's according to officials with the U.S. Homeland Security Department. But they do acknowledge that Border Patrol officials are still dealing with high levels of migration along the U.S.-Mexico border. Nicole Skanga reports from Brownsville, Texas.
Migrants crossed the border directly into waiting buses in El Paso, Texas Friday, hours after Title 42 expired. Homeland Security officials say so far the policy change has not led to a surge in border crossings.
We have not seen any substantial increase in encounters overnight or any influx at midnight.
But migrant arrival numbers remain high, and the Mexican government estimates there are more than 26,000 migrants waiting to enter the U.S.
We provide lawful, safe, and orderly pathways for people to come to the United States when they qualify for relief.
Under the policy now in effect, migrants cannot gain asylum without first applying for it in another country. Those caught crossing illegally face a 5-year ban and possible criminal charges. Migrants seeking asylum who make it across the border and through processing face more confusion and uncertainty about their status in the U.S. Daisy Guerrero from Venezuela tells us she survived a kidnapping before reaching this migrant shelter in the Rio Grande Valley.
I don't want the families to be exposed to any dangers.
Sister Norma Pimentel runs Catholic Charities, one of the biggest nonprofit migrant shelters in Texas.
I focus on the humanitarian part. I care about the families and making sure that they're treated with dignity and respect.
She says the policy change is making it difficult for migrants to know what to expect. Nicole Skanga, CBS News, Brownsville, Texas.
Well, there are less than 3 weeks to go until Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the nation will run out of money to pay its bills. Now, congressional leaders were supposed to discuss the debt ceiling with President Biden today. However, that meeting has been postponed. Willie James Inman is in Washington with why putting the meeting off could actually be a good thing.
President Biden and congressional leaders agreed to postpone their planned debt ceiling meeting until next week.
The staff has met the last 2 days. We think it's productive for the staff to meet again.
The meetings have been productive over the past few days, and leaders wanted to continue before they regrouped.
Those discussions will continue over the weekend behind closed doors. but both sides are still publicly pointing fingers at each other.
We are not going to negotiate over the debt limit. That is something that Congress should act on. That is their constitutional duty.
I have not seen from there a seriousness of the White House that they want to deal. It seems like they want to default more than they want to deal.
Former President Trump has chimed in to say Republicans should let the U.S. default if they don't get what they want in the negotiations. And he does have some sway with House Republicans.
3 of the 4 have said that we have to avoid default. They've been very clear. We have to take default off the table. I will let you guess who was the 4th that did not say that.
Republican senators also dismissed the idea.
He's not the president, so he doesn't have a vote on it currently. We're not going to default.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sent a letter to colleagues Friday morning urging the GOP to take default off the table and added the clock is ticking. Willie James Inman, CBS News, the White House.
Well, now to some disappointing news for families on the neighbor islands. E.K. Fernandez has made a difficult decision that has led to the cancellation of the Maui and Hawaii Island fairs. There are various reasons, but one of them is the unavailability of rides. Hawaii's only thrill ride provider, E.K. Fernandez Shows, says it's struggling to fill positions, and without more skilled workers, it can't get all the equipment to and from the neighbor islands in the required time. Families and businesses were looking forward to the fairs.
And it's an opportunity to fundraise, and some of the organizations use the fair to fulfill their whole fundraising for the whole year. So to not have it in the community it's devastating. It's a blow to the economy, and all these small businesses that we work with that generate income for them, they're losing out too.
The company's also factoring in rising costs. Both the Maui Fair and the Big Island Fair haven't run since 2019. The 50th State Fair at Aloha Stadium, however, is set to begin later this month. Let's go ahead and give you a live look outside. It is a beautiful day here on Oahu and across the state. A far different story from the rain and the showers that we saw yesterday. For more on your island weather, let's send you over to our Guy Hagi.
Because the winds are light, right, we could see some pop-up showers. But notice there's nothing in terms of organized rainfall coming in anytime soon. But with the return of the trade winds, which are expected back tomorrow, we will see those passing windward and mauka showers, mainly falling in the overnight and early morning hours. But rainfall totals, rainfall buildups will be very, very skimpy. I love this shot from Jock Goodman over on Kauai. Beautiful stuff, yeah? So again, just a few spotty showers with the variable winds mostly late in the day into the early evening, dissipating in the overnight hours. And then tomorrow, with the trade winds coming back, we'll likely see a few light passing showers for those windward neighborhoods. So really a beautiful weekend is shaping up. And these light winds, well, they'll continue into next week, but at least we'll have a trade wind breeze. So starting tomorrow, the air quality should be pretty good. We're setting up for a good Mother's Day in terms of weather.
Here's what's coming up on Sunrise Weekends. We're going to talk story with Hawaii's newest youth poet laureate. They'll be in studio with us. Also, Foodland is celebrating their 75th anniversary. They'll be with us up in the kitchen. And of course, Sunday is Mother's Day. We'll talk story with Frank DeLima, who will be having a show coming up on Sunday. This and much, much more. Join Annalisa Burgos and myself, Billy V, at Sunrise Weekends starting at 7 a.m. on Hawaii News Now.
Could you be paid if your flight is delayed? That's the idea being pitched by the Biden administration if it's the airline's fault. Now, joining us this afternoon is Mike Valerio to explain the pitch. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Ashley. Well, you know, it comes down to this. If there's a meltdown of the airlines making, think the Southwest debacle last December that left thousands of people stranded, the Biden administration is saying that passengers should be compensated. But Ashley, what that compensation or payment looks like right now is still up in the air.
What do passengers deserve if delays turn disastrous? Passengers like Pam Shelby left heartbroken after the 2022 holiday travel meltdown.
Because I wanted to visit my family, but there's nothing I can do about it.
New this week, President Joe Biden proposing a federal rule change that would compensate passengers for delays and cancellations caused by the airlines. It could take effect by the end of this year. But already in the European Union, passengers can receive up to $663 for significant delays.
One study found that the European Union required airlines to compensate passengers for flight delays. The number of flight delays went down.
Right now, 10 U.S.-based carriers cover the cost of meals for passengers and 9 cover the cost of hotels if delays or cancellations are caused by the airlines, but they do so voluntarily and can stop at any time. Brian Summers, founder and editor of the Airline Observer, says Biden's proposal could be stronger.
He didn't necessarily say you'd get a cash payment as you do in the European Union. You could get a travel credit or even frequent flyer miles.
Mary Schiavo, a former U.S. Department of Transportation Inspector General, says this signals a reversal of airline deregulation, which ushered in an era of misery.
Remember, the taxpayers of the United States own the airways. We own the runways. We own the airports. The airlines do not own those. We need to re-regulate in a grand scale with a coherent and intelligent United States transportation policy.
So, Ashley, the airlines are not happy about this. A trade group that represents them is saying, quote, U.S. airlines have no incentive to delay or cancel a flight and do everything in their control to ensure that flights depart and arrive on time. And safety is always the top priority. So we're going to have to wait a couple months to see how exactly this shakes out, Ashley.
Yeah, and Mike, travelers need to know under this plan, they will only be compensated if it's the airline's fault, if being the key word, right?
Yeah, and I think, Ashley, that's one of the more important things of this story. I don't want people to watch and say, okay, if there's weather in Hawaii and my flight is delayed, then I get potentially compensated, potentially paid. It's if there is a technology disruption, if there's a labor disruption that is all the fault or the purview of the airline, or, potentially something that is within their control, like, a scheduling delay or scheduling problem that should have been resolved hours earlier. That is the sort of thing that can be compensated. But severe weather, or if there are shortages with air traffic controllers up in the control tower, that is something that is not the airline's fault, and that would not be compensated.
And Mike, do we know why this is happening now, why this pitch is coming about now?
Well, administration officials in the White House are telling our team that they realize that this is going to be most likely, Ashley, a terrible summer travel season. And the prelude for that were, indications that there could be a shortage of FAA control tower operators and that there could be pilot strikes happening this summer. So what the Biden administration is trying to do is get ahead of those problems and show to Americans that they are trying to contribute something that could benefit us all, especially when these things are so frustrating when we're trying to get from the mainland to Hawaii and vice versa.
All right, Mike Valerio joining us this afternoon. Appreciate the time, Mike. All right, we have some updates we want to pass along to you on that breaking news we brought to you at the top of the show regarding that armed hostage situation near the Dillingham Polo Field. Hawaii News Now sources have told us that the suspect in the incident has been shot and killed by police. Again, the suspect in this armed hostage situation has been shot and killed by police, according to Hawaii News Now sources. And our sources also tell us that the hostage is safe. Our Jolani Martinez is at the scene, and she actually said that she heard several gunshots ring out, 6, in fact, around there. And she also said that she saw EMS and Honolulu Fire moving in after those gunshots, which does tell us that the situation has de-escalated safely enough for first responders to move in. And of course, we're going to bring you much more information on this as we get it throughout the day online, and we'll have more reports for you in our later newscast.
Yeah, and to wind out today's show, we do want to give a quick mahalo to all of the mothers in our lives. Here's my ohana at Mary Monarch, my mom and my sister, and my grandmother, all the moms in my life here. And then Ashley, this is you and your mom.
Yeah, look at my mom. So 80s. I love it.
So cute. We love it. Well, we want to wish a happy Mother's Day. Of course, that's happening this Sunday. To all the moms out there, thank you all so much for tuning in, and stay tuned to Hawaii News Now for the latest on the breaking news.